Daily life is often filled with trivial stresses. And beyond that exist hidden layers of grander, more profound issues that we have to deal with in our lives. Problems so integrated to our experience, life is not imagined without them. Feeling lonely, invisible, unworthy, disliked, and lack of control. The expanse, the complexity to which these emotions affect our daily behavior is numbing. And no matter what we do, they remain inaccessible to resolve. In the recent years of my life, I made a breakthrough from a trauma that came out of a deep place like that.
You know, as a child, I used to have these blackouts. They happen from time to time where suddenly, out of nowhere, I would get self-conscious in some weird sort of way where I realized my own consciousness and was aware of my own awareness. It was along those lines of, okay, what is reality? What am I doing inside this body? But there weren't really thoughts. It was more from a feeling point of view. This usually happened when some sort of contrast was going on. So for example, I remember going into my bedroom and then jumping into my bed, and then suddenly through that contrast of no impact to full impact, this sensation suddenly arose. And as I grew up and as I grew older, this still happened. Irregularly though, like sometimes there were phases where it happened more often and sometimes much less. And it felt like something that I eventually would need to address. But you know, it always only lasted for a couple seconds. It was very easy to distract myself from it. And on top of that, I didn't even know what it was and if it was something that I was able to address in any way. It felt so existential in a way that nothing could provide a solution for that feeling, because everything I experienced was part of the problem. It all came down to one February night in 2016. So this was a very tumultuous time in my life. In my family, many things changed within a short period of time. So I ended up moving to Salzburg for the first time. And on that night, I was watching a movie with my dad. And it was a good movie. I was really immersed in it. And in fact, I think that was the thing that then triggered the following. Suddenly, I was in the movie, watching it, and then suddenly in a split second I realized that I am sitting on the sofa actually. And something about that immediate contrast made that blackout, that depersonalisation come up in a stronger way than I had ever experienced it before that. It felt like somebody would pull the carpet under my feet. In a split second I had to question everything. Everything that I knew and that I took for certain in my life, the people, myself, also things like gravity, breathing and air, physical sensations, they all seemed so unreal. And it was all happening in like 10 seconds in my brain. And I didn't move. My dad didn't notice that night, but I had like a strong panic attack because of that. And little did I know that this would be the start of a 6-month journey of experiencing this depersonalization every single day. Usually it came up at night and I was frightened by it. I didn't have an escape. Nothing that I considered would be an escape, because everything that could potentially have helped me there was just part of the illusion that I felt I was trapped in. This started to develop in some sort of vicious cycle where I would wake up in the morning already expecting the sensation to come up eventually during the day, and it definitely came up at night, and most of the times also sometime in the afternoon. Like, didn't matter what I was doing, at some point I would just like zone out and everything around me would feel very detached, unreal, not part of anything. Basically, this sensation was so intense. I knew that if I wanted to keep on living life in a constructive way, I would have to find a way out of that. There was no pushing in front of me or procrastination in some sort of way, because it was too strong, it was too close, and I was too afraid of it. Thank God I met Maria in that summer. Suddenly caring for a new person, having like an earthly distraction from my ethereal problems helped me so much to at least find some footing again in my life. I knew at the time that the processing of this, whatever this was, wasn't over. At least the panic attacks and that reoccurrence on a daily basis faded away. After a while, I really wanted to get to the bottom of this, diving deep into all these different topics where I felt like this could provide a solution for it, discovering many different approaches of life, techniques, methods. There is so much noise everywhere, especially in self-help and spirituality. It was a constant process of getting lost in there and then getting out again, finding why I was in there in the first place. Years went by, and in retrospect now, this happened very gradually. Over the course of some time, I started to feel better. These depersonalization episodes decreased more and more. I felt like I was more in my body, and in general, I started to become more stable. And now looking back at this time, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I subconsciously stopped looking. I think I felt like I had found the tools that I was looking for that pulled me out of this trauma and that could provide me a way to deal with any upcoming things in my life on a sustainable level. I think what works for us depends on our personality, our preferences. For me personally, what got me out of there, I think, was 3 things. It was the cold immersion. That stress that I have in my body through the cold reconnected me with my body. It grounded me and it brought back an actual fear response, something graspable. It was also the breathing. What cold immersion did to my body, the breathing did to my spirit. It kind of realigned it. I felt very psychotic for a long time, and something about the breathing and the experiences that came with activated breathing just put it back into place for me. And then it was different techniques to work with the part of the brain that stores trauma and that stores that inner programming where the situations are connected to the emotions. So I worked through it, I found my things that worked for me and I felt better. Eventually I was able to take on my life again. And at the same time I still cannot wrap my head around what happened to my experience 7 years ago. This weird sensation of consciousness in general and existence in general is still the biggest mystery for me. I don't know, in my mind it's always been either we're in this polarizing world full of duality that I stopped experiencing in 2016 for a while, or that non-dual feeling that everything is one and existence and consciousness is not even as clear as it seems to us. I was thinking either something was wrong with me back then, where I stopped experiencing life in this dual world, or there is still some deeper truth within everything, and I back then had just experienced a small glimpse of how things actually are, and the way how we see existence on a day-to-day basis as something fixated is not actually that. And I came to the conclusion for now that maybe duality, so this world full of polarities, and non-duality, or it's seen more from an energy point of view, maybe these 2 things happen simultaneously. Because obviously we wouldn't be here as human beings if we weren't supposed to experience duality in some form. But at the same time, if you change your focus and attention to certain things, and sometimes your focus and attention gets changed through experiences. We all have them, like these special moments where things just feel different. There's some sort of energetic weight in these moments that cannot be explained from a material point of view. So maybe duality and non-duality happen simultaneously, and it's always just a matter of perspective. Maybe we as humans have the chance to look at both dimensions, and our consciousness, our focus and our attention decides what we are able to see. I think this is the first time now that I actually feel like I'm making peace with that. I can accept that fact. That makes sense for my brain. It also in a way justifies what had happened to me 7 years ago. It feels conclusive, and I think I needed that. I've been looking for that conclusion of that never-ending story that felt like it could never end.